Hi, and welcome back to Mentally Yours, a podcast presented by Mahfouz by Simran, co-presented by EDUTHON. And today's guest is a remarkable leader and educator, Dr. KKR, the Vice Principal of GRD College of Science and the Director of the Institute of Management and the School of Commerce and International Business. With over 2 PhDs, 7 patents and over 100 publications along with global recognition, he has spent his entire life in transforming education. So please welcome Dr. KKR. How are you doing today?
Good.
How does your day looks like usually?
Well, this is an admission season, so a lot of queries, a lot of confusions. We need to probably show them the path on how to move forward in life. So different opportunities come in way.
Absolutely. I think this is what you're best at. You have been, dealing with children and you have been guiding them through, various methodologies. So I was very intrigued when I was going through your bio. How did it all start? Were you always into education? Were you like a really bright student? Or is this something that, got prominent during the process?
Well, I belong to a family of teachers. They were into academics. And I think I am the 7th or 8th generation in that particular space. Now, but interestingly, I had a very challenging time during my teen, I think 16, 15. Till then, education was something else. I was like enjoying education. I was enjoying sports. But somewhere around 15, I guess, my dad fell ill and I had got distracted then and I was not doing well in academics. And my step grandmother happened to say that this guy is not good in education. So let us look at something light for him because he will not cross through the public exam is what she happened to say. Touchwood, today into academics, doing things the way in which it's not to be done, but at the same time, keep learning from the students, keep learning from the batches that I come across and try to do the best what I can in my space.
Amazing, sir. I mean, transitioning from when your family did not have enough faith in you that you would even clear the basic exams to now building university, like these major colleges and building, career of so many children. I mean, amazing job done, sir. So while you were telling me that, you had this start towards education, was there a particular incident or memory that you remember that stuck by you till now, or maybe it could be a humorous memory or something that is very close to your heart?
Yeah, while I was doing my masters, I had this interest towards advertising, and many of my professors used to say that you might turn out to be a good copywriter or you might be a good visualizer because you write a lot and you come out with very unique ideas. So advertising should be your field is what most of my teachers told me, my professors told me. Then I think I was quite influenced by my dad and the way in which he handled education. And I think somewhere in the midst, I was dabbling between do I get into advertising or do I get into academics or do I get into something else is something that I was probably dealing with. And God's grace, this thought came up where I said, I'm going to get into academics. And most of my friends who knew me as a sportsman, as a guitarist in a college band, were laughing at me when I said I'm going to get into academics. They said, like, come on, you into academics? No, you should be in corporate. You should be like, say, a leader of the future. There is a lot more that can be done than being in academics. So I think close around 10 close friends or probably mentors to whom I've spoken that point of time, all of them said like, why academics? Why academics? And I was like quite amused about the thought, what's wrong in academics?
Actually.
Then I asked one of the professors who's like a good academician whom we look upon with loads of respect. He happened to tell us, I asked him this question, why do you say like we shouldn't get into academics? He said like it's a boring job and you don't get much of respect in that particular job, and they don't pay you well, and it is very monotonous, and so many other things he happened to say. Touchwood, by God's grace, till date, I have not found, or till this moment, I have not found academics to be boring, nor it was monotonous, nor it's not that you don't get respect. I mean, respect is something that you give. What you give is what you get. So that's how my journey in academics happened to be. I think my dad was a great influence on me getting into academics.
Mhm. I think amazing, sir. The way you have mentioned the whole journey of, understanding that if you want to go into academics or not, amazing. And while you were mentioning that, you used to play guitar and you were into sports, I'm really intrigued to know what kind of sports did you play and what does your personality represent apart from this high profile job, where you're working throughout the day. How does this look like?
Well, sports was a um, amazing healer and a distraction when you are not good at grades. Okay, when you're not good at grades. Right? So I played all kinds of sport, but interestingly, I was championing the table tennis districts, and I played up to the state level. Played cricket up to the combined districts, basketball to the college level. But I've coached the basketball teams to kind of perform better. So these three games were very close to my heart, and I was professional in all the three of it.
Amazing, sir. And could you tell us a little more about the guitar aspect of it?
No, guitar was like, say, that's once upon a time while you were in college and school, you were part of I would say, a band. And whenever there was a gig, then you go and play a lead and come back. That's how it turned out to be.
Amazing, sir. I mean, I am really glad to know that, apart from the this profession that you have so much other potential as well. I'm so glad to know that. I would like to know that, you have been to so many places, to learn in terms of education or to embark your education. What's one thing that you have learned and you have been using over the years in your classrooms?
Okay. I look at academics, or I look at learning a bit differently because of one interesting reason. Well, if you look at any of the child when they are born, and maybe the first 3 years and 4 years, they are very curious. They are very curious. They are full of energy. Then you send them to school. The energy gets straightened up.
Yes.
And a lot of things change. A lot of things change. I strongly believe that curiosity is the one main thing when it comes to academics.
Absolutely.
And as we grow, we turn a bit bitter, and the curiosity dims down.
Yes.
So I strongly believe that when it comes to academics, we have an approach where we end up saying, as teachers, we end up saying what a child or what a student is not good at. Mm-hmm. Most of us don't tell them what they are good at.
Actually,
if that paradigm shift happens, if we start identifying the goodness or probably the most talented or the most good things that the person has got, or maybe a strength a child has got, then I think we are building a complete new generation who starts believing, well, I'm good at this. Now, instead, what we are doing is we are triggering them to say that, we are triggering them to kind of focus on something that they are not good at.
Absolutely, very right.
If somebody is not good at numbers, it doesn't mean they can't exist. When I had a challenge at one point of time in academics, I was distracted. as going through a fear syndrome purely because of the illness my dad had. Now, today I hold 2 PhDs, 1 postdoctorate, 4 international fellowships, which includes Fulbright, has got patents. When I can do it, every single child can do it.
Absolutely.
The plot I'm sharing here is that it's time we don't showcase or we don't focus just on weakness. I'm not saying you should not focus on weakness. You can focus on weakness, but focus more on your strength and try to improve your weakness. Instead, all of us are doing what we should not do. We focus heavily on weakness and neglect our strength. And by doing so, what are we going to achieve? That's my learning when it comes to education as such.
Absolutely, sir. And I think this was very insightful for everybody who will be watching, and for me, of course. And I have a leading question that, you have been to so many other institutes outside of India as well. Do you think there's a particular aspect in terms of education where India is lacking? I mean, there would be many, but one major that you think that India is lacking, and this is something that we need to work upon.
Well, my entire approach towards education started off with this question 20 years ago. I was teaching in one of the universities in UK,
Okay.
where we had there, the classrooms are like 2 hours and 3 hours per session. So as we are having a break, and I just looking at our students and asking myself this question: how exactly these students are different from students in India in our classrooms? And what I figured out there was each classroom had not less than 10 to 13 nationalities, people from different countries, cultures, and continents. Okay, that's something that I saw. Number two was, I think our students are very intelligent. Very intelligent. Okay,
Yes.
those students were driven by purpose. They knew what they want. They had to manage their time, their emotions, their money, and their purpose. Whereas here we have a cushion where there are a lot of people who does a lot of things
Yes.
for a student who goes to college. Okay,
Absolutely.
so that is something that I saw, and I think the discipline part of it is all of them, whoever you are, wherever you are from, end up coming there by spending a lot of money to get that education.
Yeah.
And every minute they spend there is equal to whatever pounds they have to calculate with their native currencies. So they had more self-discipline,
Yes.
self-motivation, and they were also driven by purpose. They were clear what they were going to do in their second year and what they were going to do post-college. All that they were driven by, and they are driven by their mobile phone, the internet, and the right kind of connects, spending loads of time in the library, where some of these things I think is visible when it comes to the two different cultures we've got. Our students have got a lot of energy, and they also want a lot of things, but we need to drive them with a particular purpose, and we need to probably listen to them and give them more, is what I think. That's the new space in which we are traveling.
Absolutely. So what you're saying is direction is what children in India require. That at an early age, if they're directed towards what their skill set matches to, and what their goal is supposed to be. So what do you think should be the right age to probably have a discussion or guidance about this, and what measures can we take to direct them towards a better career option suitable according to their skills or intelligence probably?
See, as we grow with technology invading every part of our life, today's children, maybe today's 18-year-old is much smarter than I was in my 21.
Absolutely,
right?
sir.
And today, interestingly, I would rather say somewhere around 13, 14, that is where they try to kind of think through things, because when it comes to internet and their mobile phones and their the technology has, of course, chat GPT is something that is giving better answers. than the teachers. That's how it has turned out to be. Interestingly, my daughter, who's like at the age of like 15, on the other day asked me a question of like, say, "Hey, what do you mean by machine learning? How exactly does it work?" For which I was trying to probably program myself, right? In the sense, like, I thought for a second and I was trying to kind of find the right words to express to her to understand what machine learning was. This could be what, 50 seconds. I took time, looked at her, and I was trying to tell her. Before that, she turned towards um, the Siri and said like, "Hey Siri, what is machine learning?" I'm like, Siri started answering before I could probably express, and I was trying to compare how Siri was answering, and it looked smarter than the way in which I would have answered. So even though you are into academics with so much of experience and qualification, what is important today is relevance.
Absolutely.
Relevance. Are you relevant? Are you able to communicate the way in which somebody is willing to listen and learn from you? That's the biggest challenge I think we've got today when it comes to the next generation learning as such. It's, to me, the way in which I look at it is, listen to them, learn from them, and probably share what you can. The days of being academics, say, when I would have gone to college, the reality was I would go to a classroom, or maybe I would go to a library, or I would read books, at the maximum talk to some elderly people or mentors to kind of get knowledge.
Yes.
Today, Siri gives you. Today,
Everything.
ChatGPT gives you. We are in a tsunami of information, but what is lacking today is attention.
Absolutely.
We are flooded with information. Information is like a tsunami today, but attention is what is needed. And we are living in a distracted world, restless world.
Absolutely.
In this, purpose can only make things happen, nothing else. And I think today the children should be taught how to think and not what to think. That could make a world of difference.
That makes so much sense. Yes, absolutely. And you were talking about AI or machine learning, and then attention. How do you deal with these challenges in your classroom? Or in the classroom setup when children want to learn, but at the same time they have so much resources handy, and even if you want to impart knowledge, attention span is not there. How do you battle with these challenges, sir?
Yeah. I think the way in which our classrooms are functioning has to change, will change, and we have to change. That's how it runs in. So, what kind of change can we bring in to this generation as such? It's a very interesting question, and it is a very pertinent question, because we have 1,100 universities in the country, and we've got enormous number of institutions, educational institutions. There are a lot of people who are coming into campuses to kind of get a career as such, or maybe get knowledge. In a world where information is a tsunami and attention is what is challenging, or maybe is difficult, now you need to adapt to a new way of engaging the students.
Absolutely.
How exactly do we do that? And it could happen not on a one-way monologue. It should be in a conversational mode.
Very rightly said.
You will have to throw situations to the students and make them to kind of respond. Immediately, the response is going to be dull. It will be a silent room. But you'll have to encourage that culture to come in. Once we get into that kind of a culture, you'll be bombarded with energy, ideas, and solutions. Say, we as a culture, we try to probably teach our children to stay away from problems. But today, in any space that we are traveling, problem solving happens to be the number one skill that each of us should have to kind of survive and sustain, right? So in that context, if our classrooms are more of problem solving and idea generations and strategies, I think a classroom for the teacher and the student will be interesting, meaningful, and relevant.
I think I'm so glad to know that, even though you are at such a high position hierarchy in the, education system, you are an educator or a leader, I would say, but still you are open to learning, open to communication, which is the most important factor, learning from the children through them and then applying it. I really appreciate that, sir. And that brings me to the question that how do you keep up with the pace, at in today's time we feel generation gap from, let's say, 2 to 3 years younger children from us, and then being at such a high position you have to manage so many things. AI is one, taking care of children's mental health is one, and so many other aspects, their career. How do you keep up with the pace that you have to make sure everything is in place?
Well, by profession, I'm in education, but my occasion is student, lifelong learner. I'm a lifelong learner. And how do you keep up with the pace? When you're so curious about learning, you don't bother about the pace. All that you bother and focus is about learning, learning, and learning. And I'm pumped up with the new learnings that are coming through. Say, for example, I told you the seconds today's children can't wait to get the answer teaches me something else. In the sense, well, you can only co-create or collaborate, and you can't just be, well, I know it all and I would probably share it all. That's not the way in which academics can survive anymore. To me, like, say, you ask this question, how do you keep pace with this? Say, whatever I've done is in the archives. Am I relevant to communicate to this generation? Am I able to impact this generation? Am I able to kind of influence them in their careers, in their future, in their life, is what that matters the most. I'm not in the business of teaching subjects. I'm in the business of shaping future. And to shape the future, you need to listen first, understand, and resonate what they need, and try to provide them what they need.
We need so many more leaders like you, sir. Thank you for, being the way you are. I would like to ask you another question that, with so much happening around in terms of mental health, how do you make sure that your mental health is in check and that of the student as well? Because, it's a very vast topic if we talk about it, and you are at a position where you can't go and check in on with every child, right? So you have to make policies or rules that supervise and that help every child. And how do you maintain with your mental health as well? So, like, a very vast question, but like in terms of your mental health and children's mental health.
Yeah. First, I'll talk about the children's mental health, because that's a very, very interesting question. I think somewhere around 8 years ago, that is pre-pandemic time, I had a friend of mine who's a Queen's Award winner in UK, a professor who used to come to campus, and we used to have different kinds of topics on which he'll do master classes. And in the context, suddenly something hit me, and I said, like, say, today children come from good families, they've got good grades, they are ambitious, they are good looking, they are not good looking, nothing matters. All that matters today is how's their emotional intelligence. I've seen students with very high grades not doing well in life. Some of them who are not good at grades were doing well in life. Same applies to every parameter. And one thing that was constant was emotional intelligence is something that is very, very important. And it's time for us to address emotional intelligence. And I remember we had this master class where I walked up to we announced it to the entire student body and said it's an open house. Who wants to come in and participate in it? Students walked in and participated. I think we had like some around 25, 30 students because it was an open house, emotional intelligence, not too many people were aware of. And take it from me, I just went and did the keynote for like maybe 5-7 minutes. And the professor who was from UK walked up and said only one thing. All those who have anger in them, we've got some bulbs there in the corner of the room. If you want to probably break those bulbs and break your anger, go do that and come back. And all of us were supposed, rest of them in the room who don't want to break, have to close their eyes.
Oh.
And we closed our eyes, and what we could hear is, I think around some 30 bulbs were kept. Okay, all 30 got broken. Suddenly, I could feel the heat in the room. I even walked out of the room. Say I left the students with the coach who was into emotional intelligence because I knew there is a lot more coming up. So maybe they will probably restrict themselves from probably speaking or sharing. So I moved out of the room, and that was an eye opener for me.
Absolutely.
And the coach came back and shared. Well, until then I always believed, what big challenge you will have in life at the age of 18 to 20. Maybe you have a relationship challenge, you have a financial challenge, maybe you have a health challenge, is what I ended up probably asking. What is your excuse? Is what I used to probably speak. But suddenly I figured out, no, there is a lot of them who need help, who's not sure where to go, how to probably handle this. And then we moved into the next phase. He said, it's very difficult to kind of do this every quarter. Rather, we will do something else. We brought in something called a breathing exercise in campus. We did yoga, but my students took it on to a complete different level. What they did was, there was a wellness space that was created, and they came up peers teaching peers wellness. Oh. That worked amazing. So now we have a wellness day, and students come up with their own way of dealing with wellness, and they end up probably doing a lot of things to make their mental health better. And of course, we've got periodical speakers coming into the campus. We have a psychology department also, which helps to kind of channelize some of those energies. Yeah, that's how it goes.
Amazing, sir. I'm again, to be able to curate norms and policies in the college setup, you also have to be well aware and advocate about these things. And I always stress in my classes as well that EQ is more important than IQ always. I'm so glad that you said that. And moving towards, I would like to ask you that. How do you feel that, now that you also understand being in the education system, how do you think EDUTHON is breaking, the barriers or filling the gaps in terms of bringing in new policies or, talking about new ideas, let's say? What do you have to say about this?
Well, to me, EDUTHON was an eye-opener in the sense, Ankur does this selflessly. How exactly do I put it across? Well, students expect a lot from institutions and teachers. And I think people in academics are going through a lot of stress, and they have their own pressure zone. Today, I would say it is one of the most toughest job. When I started off, it was one of the most coolest job. Now it is not the same anymore. I mean, not because my students are challenging. No, not in that context. You have ChatGPT to AI to all the tools taking over a part of a teacher or probably a skill of a teacher.
Yes.
And it makes easier for children to learn. They have micro learning. They've got like in 3 lines they are able to learn. So in that context, maybe a teacher's competitor is Google, AI, ChatGPT. That's how it has turned out to be. In that context, I think Eduthon brings in a different kind of enlightenment in the form of opening up new ideas, opening up conversations, and showing directions of where we are and where we should focus. That's something to me is like a lighthouse for education. I mean, like ships come not to stay, but to go in their direction.
Yes.
And Eduthon's primary role is to kind of showcase or probably show the directions on which direction should we travel as educators is something that I figured out there.
Amazing, sir. And you have attended some of the previous Eduthon sessions. Is there a particular session or a part of this event that you really liked or resonated with you, and that probably you still use in your classroom? It could be a takeaway, anything that you would like to share with us, sir.
You're breaking. I think it's got freezed.
All
I
right.
didn't hear the question.
All right,
I didn't hear the question.
I'll say that again, sir. I was asking, was there a particular aspect or session from previous year's Eduthon series that resonated with you properly?
Yeah. Yes. There was a. I think Barka Dutt was there in one of those sessions, and in that space, a lot of them were talking about the future, the challenges in schools, and so many other things. I happen to probably share a very simple research which I happen to do it for my Fulbright, and in that research, the fundamental question was, why do children or why do students come to school or college? 2, which subject did they like the most and why? Where the 2 questions where I've done this research with 15,000 people from different countries as respondents. And the outcome was, it is not the teacher who had the maximum number of qualification or the teacher who studied in the best of the institutions in the world. It is not the teacher who spoke very well. It is a teacher who cared the student the most. Was the subject that the student liked. And the way in which we look at students and we think that this is the reason why students come to school or this is what they get out of the school is what we think. But in reality, it's completely on a different space.
Yes.
So I think that I happen to share this in that context when I was invited to speak. And I came from southern part of India to the northern part of India, where I didn't know much of them who were there in that particular room. And post that particular program, I think every single director and teachers walked up to me, and one child walked up to me, and a lot of them spoke a lot of good things. But one child who was like, say, maybe at the age of 15, walked up to me and said, "Thank you for hearing us and sharing it to everybody."
Wow.
I was like, wow, this is amazing. So I asked, like, say, what exactly you meant? She said, no, we are driven by grades. You said, don't look at grades, look at your strengths. And then you said, we like a subject not because the subject was easy or the teacher was very well qualified. It was only because the teacher cared for us and wanted us to do well in that particular subject. That made a world of difference. Thank you, sir, she said. Well, that's something that I remember close to my heart.
Amazing, sir. This was really insightful, emotional, like an emotional moment as well. I think the best reward for a teacher is when you listen these kind of things from your children. Amazing, sir. I think I have so many more questions to ask you, but we are time bound. But this was full of wisdom. I am in awe of your simplicity. I would want everybody who is watching to go through your background and bio and then see sir the way he's speaking. so humble, doing so many things, and making a difference in real. So thank you so much, sir. This was indeed very insightful, full of wisdom for me. And I'm glad I got to do this for you. And I think for everybody who is watching, this will be really, really helpful, especially for the school leaders. It will change their perspective. Actually, my perspective got changed during the conversation of how we see children, not by their grades, but we need to see them with their strengths. So I am in education myself, but this has given me a fresh perspective. So I think for everybody who's watching, this will be full of learning. So till then, we'll please take care of your physical health and mental health both, and we'll see you in the next episode of Mentally Yours. Stay connected. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. This was a pleasure talking to you. And interestingly, I'm blessed to be in education. And whatever I've done is little, and whatever I focus to do is about making an impact in people's lives. And interestingly, in my entire journey, one thing that, or the two things that keep me focused is the kind of stories, the kind of challenges, the kind of agonies some of our students go through in their personal lives. And when they stay strong and change their future by education, inspires me a lot. And they are all around the world, where from nothing they have made it on their own. And we've been just probably be a bridge there to kind of make them pass through. And it is only their efforts that has made them to be where they are. That's something that is very, what's the right word? I'm not getting the right word. That's something that makes me be in love with education so long. And interestingly, we have created, I've mentored, and we've got close to around 70 entrepreneurs who has come out from non-business families.
Wow.
And has created their own startups, and some of them have gone to an extent of reaching 400 crores as their turnover per year. Maybe on some other day we will talk about them. And we'll bring them to the program to interact with you. Thank you.
This was really great, sir. And I'm so glad I got to do this with you, sir. This was full of wisdom, full of knowledge, and you really changed my perspective towards education and how to deal with children. Being at such a great position, he is very well aware of the mental health and the strengths of the children instead of focusing on the grades. You have given us so much information, and I'm sure it will be really insightful for everybody who is watching. Sir is a really humble personality, even though he has gained so many awards and accolades. I'm sure this will be of a lot of learning for all of you. So I'll see you in the next episode of Mentally Yours, presented by Mahfouz by Simran, co-presented by EDUTHON. Till then, take care of your mental health the way you take care of your physical health.